This is the call to order for the Board of Adjustment meeting for August 2, 2012. If you're not here for a special exception, a variance, an oil and gas related case, or an appeal from the decision of a director, you may be in the wrong room. Hopefully everybody's here and in the right place and we're ready to proceed. The one thing I would tell you is we ask at this time if you would please turn your cell phones off, and that would help us tremendously. The first order of business today is to approve the minutes from our last meeting. I'll entertain a motion for that.
So moved.
Second.
Please cast your vote. The minutes are approved. Are there any staff continuances at this time?
We have none today.
Are there any continuance requests from the public at this time? There being none, the next item on the agenda is the consent docket. And we have two items on the consent docket today. Kathy, could you read those into the record, please?
Item number 1, case number 13582, and item number 2, case number 13583.
At this time, I'd accept a motion to approve these consent docket items.
So moved.
Second.
Please register your vote. It's approved. Would you please call the first case, Kathy?
Item number 3, case number 13581, request of Copper Mark Bank for a variance to the minimum lot size and side yard setback located at 3517 Brock Drive.
Before we get started on this, my client, Doneen Jones, represents Copper Mark and does some of their loan documents, so I'm going to turn this over to Jim at this time and recuse myself.
And we've had some files for Copper Mark, nothing active now. Do you want me to recuse?
I don't think that's necessary if there's nothing active.
It's safer. Let's do that.
I think you should. You still have
Good luck with that.
Okay, are you representing Copper Mark? Okay, go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon, board members. My name is Gina Knight. I'm an attorney out here in Oklahoma City with Nash, Cohenauer, Kelly, Giesman, and Knight.
Go ahead and give your address also, please.
Our address is 4101 Perimeter Center Drive, Suite 200, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73112. And we are here representing Copper Mark Bank on behalf of the variance application. I'm going to try to make it short, but I do think a brief history would probably be helpful for you. We're seeking a variance with regard to Oklahoma City Municipal Code, Chapter 59, Section 6100.3, which pertains to the minimum lot size and side yard setback in R2 district. Our client is the owner of the east 89 feet of Lot 5 in Altamira Addition. The street address for this property is 3517 Brock Drive, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. The owner of the remaining portion of that lot is Copper 12 LLC, or was Copper 12 LLC. That property's street address is 2209 Southwest 35th Street. Both of these properties were built between 1935 and 1938 and are approximately 700 square feet. Copper 12 used to own both properties, and both of them were separately mortgaged to different lenders. Our client was one of those lenders. By merger, sometime in 2011, Copper 12 became the LLC named Berkshire Place LLC. They filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy early in 2011. I believe it was February around that time. Copper Mark obtained title to the property by virtue of a deed in lieu transaction. This deed in lieu transaction was approved by the bankruptcy court as part of the protracted Chapter 11 litigation. After they obtained title to the property, they learned that a lot split was required or it would not be insurable as marketable. They also learned about the problem with regard to the 5,000 square foot minimum square footage and the 50-foot side yard split. Regardless to say, without the approval of a variance, the lot split, they're not going to have marketable title to this property. These properties have been there in existence, current use, since 1935, which is more than 60 years. It appears that there is a fence line between the properties, which is where we've got our legal description, and that has been there for a number of years. Since we're short in the chain of title, I don't know how many years that it has been there, but it does appear to be a long time. I believe that fence line is probably where that 4-foot encroachment exists. But because of the concerns that the water department had, our client has sought and obtained an easement from the owner of Copper 12, which is the other portion of the lot. And I do have that with me today. It has been finally signed by all the parties, and I have copies for all of the board members. And I do have a copy of the survey where the legal description was obtained, and this is a recent survey done within the past month. And I have copies.
Just go ahead and bring them up.
Okay. I'm going to lose that. If you're ready for me to continue. Board members, we believe that literal enforcement of the municipal code under these particular circumstances would cause an unnecessary hardship and cause a loss to our client, because without this variance, their title is not marketable. Also, we believe that if you grant this variance, it will pose no detriment to the public. It's not going to change the use of the property. It's going to continue to be used as it always is. We also have the sanitation sewer easement that was requested or needed by the Oklahoma City Water Department, and under those circumstances, we would request that the variance be granted.
I believe the applicant has met the statutory standards for the variance to be granted, and would make a motion to approve.
Second.
Do we have, before we vote, do we have anybody that wishes to speak in opposition? Okay, we got a motion and a second.
Good afternoon.
Item number 4, case number 13585, request of Michael and Betsy Miller for a variance to permit an existing house and storm shelter and a proposed new addition to be located within the 50-foot platted front building line located at 10200 Green Valley Road.
How are you this afternoon?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Would you please state your full name for the record and your home address?
Michael Miller, 10200 Green Valley Road, Oklahoma City, 73151.
Would you present your application at this time, please?
We are seeking a variance for our existing home, a storm shelter, and a proposed addition. We discovered that the house, which was built in 1985, and storm shelter, which was installed in 2000, are in violation of a front 50-foot build line on the side of our house during the closing of our home on May 7th, 2012. For the existing structures, we are asking to preserve and improve them for the years to come. For the addition, we would provide a visual and an economic improvement to our property and community, as mentioned in our application. Our house is built on the top of a sloping lot, about 15 feet of elevation change, that limits the placement of the addition. The proposed location, which would be a natural continuation along the side of the house and on top of the slope, and the concept of the addition is highly favored by our neighbors and the HOA.
That's what I was going to ask you, Mr. Miller. I saw a letter from the Homeowners Association that approves what you're proposing. Are you aware of anybody that's in opposition to this?
I am not aware of anybody. We've spoken to at least 4 of our neighbors, and they all highly approve of the location.
Any questions from any of the board members?
Mr. Miller, can you talk to me about the addition? I know the staff completed a report, and one of their unfavorable considerations was that there appears to be space on the property to locate the addition outside of the setback.
The space that would be available is either occupied by lateral lines or a bunch of trees. And then also it's down further on a slope, so we'd have to do a lot of backfilling, remove the trees, and then also expose our neighbor, their pool, and everything to the house that we'd add onto it.
So you all have just investigated this and done a thorough review and explored all options?
Yes.
This may be directed for the staff. Is the existing house is encroaching in the building setback line?
Right.
Was that approved?
Yes.
Okay, so there is record of it being approved. Okay. Was there any protest, Mr. Chairman?
I am aware of none.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
There is a motion and second. Will you please cast your vote? You have been approved, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming today.
Thank you.
Item number 5, case number 13586, request of Health Watch Medical for a variance to the requirement that no sign shall be located on or over the street right-of-way located at 1924 North Portland Avenue.
Good afternoon.
Hi,
Would you please state your name for the record and your home address?
my name is Helen, H-E-L-E-N, last name M as in Mary, B-O-H.
Are you prepared to present your application at this time, please?
Yes, sir. This is on behalf of Health Watch Medical Clinic, Medical Center located at 1924 North Portland, and we are requesting for a sign variance to be at 33 feet from the center of the road, as opposed to what the law requires for it to be 50 feet from the center of the road. And the reason we are requesting the variance is because we're gonna have less visibility of the sign if we put it at 50 feet from the center of the road, as the zoning law requires. And the reason is that we serve underdeserved populations, the underinsured, people without insurance, and we want to be able to communicate with them regarding the services that we provide for the community at large. And we did find out from the utility companies and regarding how this will impact the utility facilities around the area, and all of them did approve of us having the sign at the location that we intend to place the sign. I'll give you a paper that is showing where the sign will be placed in case it is placed 50 feet from the center of the road.
And we have a copy of that in our packets, and this is just a depiction of what it would look like if it were installed.
Yeah. You have a notation, but not an actual picture. So.
Can you tell me a little bit about other options that were explored? One of the things that we have to evaluate is whether you have met the statutory standard, and one of those elements is whether the variance, if granted, would be the minimum necessary to alleviate this hardship. And I know the staff made a notation about, the staff I think was unclear as to why the proposed location is where it is. So I'm trying to figure out, can you talk to me about some of the other things that you explored for this purpose?
Well, we've tried placing the sign where it is right now, and we noticed that there is no visibility at all. So because of the way the line is and the stretch of the property is, so it doesn't create the way the topography of the land doesn't favor, us putting that sign there for people to be able to see it.
So you all did, though, explore other options?
Right, we did explore other options. We even tried with the banners and stuff like that, but it doesn't last because the banners, if you can see, like the one we have, once the wind comes, it just, kind of tear it up and rumple it up.
Okay, thank you.
And, I mean, we are willing, in case the road, comes to that area, we are willing to move the sign, to, out of, the right of the way so the road can have, they can have the road there. But also, I think having a signage there, especially in that area, which I think it's a distressed area, could really also help, with making the people around it to understand that, business is coming in that area and there's been some life coming there, and also that helps, in that respect.
I have a question. Is this a photograph? Is that the actual location of the sign? Or is that a representation?
Yeah, that is where it should normally be 50 feet from the center of the road, and it's just maybe about 3 feet from the building.
And the street that we're looking at there to the right, is that 19th Street or is that Portland?
Is that Portland?
Okay. So you want to move it 17 feet closer to the street than
Right.
see
Right.
in that photograph.
And you base that upon it's a topography issue. You have some, if you place it somewhere else, you will not be able to see the sign. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, if we have to place it anywhere else along that 50-feet line from the center of the road, the visibility is still going to be very poor.
Okay. So it's topography.
Yeah, I think so.
That area is pretty flat, though, and I don't see any shrubbery or landscaping or trees or anything that obstruct the view of that sign. I mean, why is that sign not visible? It looks like it's a lighted sign. It's a good-sized sign.
Yeah, it's a lighting sign, but the way I mean, I think it looks clearer on the photo as opposed to,
But the sign is there now.
No, there is no sign there.
So this is just a representation of where it would.
Right, that's just something that the sign company.
And this representation is where it would be if it was in compliance.
Yeah, if it were in compliance.
Okay.
And is that the size of the sign? Are those the correct dimensions that we see? Is that, I guess I'm trying to understand is what I'm looking at, is that the sign that you all will be?
Right, this is the sign and the dimensions on that paper is correct.
Are they in compliance in terms of the size of the signage?
Yeah, the size and the height are fine.
Okay. One thing that you run into potentially when you move that closer to the street is it becomes an obstruction to traffic both ways and people trying to turn in and out.
Right, that's another, I forgot to mention that's another alternative that we looked at to see if it's going to, obstruct traffic. And 33 feet from the road, it's still quite a distance from the road. So it's not like really close to the road where it could even obstruct traffic.
How close is it to the roadway with where you want to put it?
33 feet from the road, from the main Portland Avenue.
So, right.
It'll be 33 feet from the curb?
No.
From the center?
Center, yeah.
Well, I'll just say when staff reviewed this, we were working under the impression that this is where the sign was proposed to be. So there's really no reference that shows us where the sign would be if the variance was approved.
Yeah, I would
Would
like
it be
to.
out where the banner is?
We also have a diagram of a plan.
Do you have something that shows where the sign would be
Yeah.
with the variance? That's what we need.
Can you bring that up?
Yeah. Like you said, just 17 feet closer from where the sign actually supposed to be. I
when the property was rezoned to office, the city requested an additional 17 feet of right-of-way from 33, to bring it from 33 to 50, which are current standards. Left at 33, it would not be in the right-of-way, but we took the additional 17, which gave us more right-of-way and less room for the sign.
What I'm struggling with is the dimensions of the sign, and if we were to grant this application, then we could potentially be obstructing traffic. Given the dimensions of the sign as presented from this graph, it would seem to me whether you put it where you left it there where it is compliant, or if you were to move it to where you're requesting, you would still probably be able to see it from Portland. But if you do the latter, which is relocating it, again, we have that issue with visibility and parking and potentially creating a hazard. And so for that reason, I would have to vote to deny the application.
Would you be willing to entertain a motion for a continuance to allow city staff to go out and take a look at this and report back to us in more detail as to the location and the topography, et cetera?
I'm happy to do that, Tim.
I have a question. Are you denying it because you think the sign dimensions make the sign too big where it could obstruct traffic?
Well, we're not denying it at this point. The motion at this point, I think I've amended what I initially was going to propose, and now I think we're going to give you more time to work with the city to try to find, specifics so that some of the questions that we have can be answered. So right now we're just...
Would that be okay with you? We move to continue this. You meet with the city so the city can get a better understanding of the location and look at the topography, et cetera, and then we come back at the next meeting. Would that be okay?
Okay.
That would be my preference. I apologize. I misread this. I thought this was 33 feet. And it looked okay, so I didn't drive by it.
No.
Okay.
I'd entertain a motion for a continuance at this time.
So moved.
Second.
Please register your votes. We will put you on the next agenda at the next meeting.
I'll just make a suggestion. What we've asked applicants to do in the past is to go out and put up some kind of a board or something where the sign will be.
I have it.
And take some pictures of that so the board see where that sign will be and if it will block any traffic or sight distance or anything like that.
I'd like to see dimensions on that sign also from the curve.
Dimensions are on this sheet.
We have that in our packet, ma'am. We have that in our packet. Oh, you've got dimensions on that? Yes. Okay. Yeah, well, I would like to see a drawing like the first drawing that you handed us, to the exact location of that sign and the dimensions off of Portland and the dimensions off of 19th Street.
You mean dimensions of the sign?
Yes, when you bring it back the next time, okay? If you would get with the staff, they will know what we're talking about. If you could bring that and just get with the staff, and they can explain that to you. Yes.
Just come see us in our office.
And you have an exhibit? Yes, okay.
You'll be continued to September 6th, will be the next meeting. Helen, September 6th.
Do I have to pay another fee to attend the next meeting?
You do not. Would you please call the next item?
Item number 6, case number 13588, request of Hart Partners for a variance to the hard surface parking and parking lot striping requirement located at 716 and 808 West Sheridan Avenue and 727 and 801 West California Avenue.
Good afternoon. My name is Eric Morehouse. I'm a representative of Hart Partners. actually the architect of record for the renovation for the Hart building itself.
Just for the purpose of the record, would you please give your home address?
Yes, my home address is 3601 Ocala Drive, Edmond, Oklahoma, 73013.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Our client has requested a variance to be granted the use of decomposed slate or hackett, I'm not sure which, or the client has a separate landscape architect who we've sort of worked with, but not completely. And they're out of Dallas and we're unable to make it, so our client asked me to represent him because he's in Colorado. So the idea is that the parking lots south of the Hart building and the two adjacent lots to the east and west of the Hart building along Sheridan would be constructed of a decomposed granite or hackett or whatever the material is. But it would be similar to what has been used on the 180 project and over at the gardens.
It was my understanding that it was going to be granite. Is
Yes.
there now
Granite
possibility
and
that it will not be
hackett
granite?
I'm sorry?
Is there the possibility that it will not be granite?
I believe the last I heard was hackett, which is just another, it's very much like granite in that it's very hard, only it's a grayish color instead of a, I don't know what
Is
color.
it basically the same thing?
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know what color you think granite is. I mean, it could be gray as well.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. There are also stone pavers that create kind of an axis within each parking lot. And then the main drive lanes are concrete. And the idea being behind the whole thing is one that they wanted to elevate the parking lot to a second use as a public plaza for after-hours events along Film Row. It also assists us in drainage in that those areas are extremely flat and the drainage in the alleys and everything in there are less than desired. So in having a permeable paving material, it allows the water to percolate back into the soil rather than overload the storm system. I guess the other item in that same variance would be the striping. You can't stripe a decomposed pavement. So the parking spaces are denoted with concrete parking blocks like you would see in parking lots of that type.
How many parking spaces are there in these two lots?
That I do not know what the total number is.
And is it to serve as parking for tenants of these buildings, or is it?
Yes, but it will also be used on weekends and after hours for events along Film Row and the neighboring building.
The parking lots would be used for events? Mm-hmm. And how would you use a parking lot for a special event?
Well, you could, I don't know exactly what his thoughts are, but I mean, you could provide parking for smaller events in, one lot, and then in another lot have that event, whether it's an auction for charity.
Are those areas being used as parking lots now?
Currently, yes. All of those areas are parking lots, and they're in major disrepair. I mean, they were asphalt at one time, but they're not.
So you've got a deteriorating asphalt surface right now?
Yeah. Okay.
And off of Sheridan, that represents a drive back to the parking area?
Yes, sir.
And you appeared before the Downtown Design Review Committee, and they approved the project
sir.
as presented.
Are you aware of anybody that's protesting this today?
No, not that I know.
And this material has been used in the past in this part of town?
Yes. The Humphreys Company off of Walker and Southwest 2nd, I believe, has a parking lot of decomposed granite.
And I think, we've dealt with this issue too, and drainage is an issue, and I think to staff, is that an accurate statement that this kind of surface contributes to better drainage of an area over a hard surface?
Absolutely.
I move to approve.
And I'll second.
Please cast your votes. Your application is approved.
Thank you.
Item number 7, case number 13589, request of Leroy and Marlene Boyer for a variance to allow a single-family residence encroaching the 10-foot platted side building setback located at 2641 Northwest Grand Boulevard.
Yes, my name is Mike Brogan. I'm a lawyer. I represent Leroy and Marlene Boyer. They're asking for a variance to allow them to build their new home on their lot within 5 feet of the west property setback line on that lot in that Nichols Hill Suburban Tracts. The plat provided for a 10-foot on the west side. The Boyers have already had their home torn down. They've lived there 45 years, bought it in 1967, and they understood it was a 5-foot setback line with the city, Oklahoma City, and the builder, Tom French, they picked the house, they had everything ready, found out when he went to get the permit that that particular Nichols Hill Suburban Tracts is in Oklahoma City, but that it provided for a 10-foot west side setback line. This property, the home that they want to build, cannot be squeezed or turned or anything to fit other than having to have this 5-foot west setback line. Now, the Boyers, been there 45 years, they said that the old home they tore down was within 5 foot of the west side. The neighbor on the west has actually already sent you all a letter. I've got another copy of it, and I have letters from he and his wife, the neighbor on the east, and the neighbor on the north behind them that would abut that part of their property, all saying they have no objection to granting this variance. And I've got copies of those I can hand to the clerk if you wish.
Please.
The first one, the one on top, I believe, is already saying it should be there.
It is.
Okay, good. And we're not aware of any objections. And in fact, everybody that would be, the Boyers know are in favor of doing this. I have a picture of the proposed home also, if that would be of any help to the board.
Sure.
But there's no other way to put this house there without granting this variance. And again, they went ahead and tore the old home down and
What you're telling the board is that there are no objections.
There's no objections.
The neighbor consents, and the new house is being built on the same location as the old house.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And am I correct that construction has not commenced at this point?
No. The tear down is complete, the lot is clear, but no construction.
It appears there's plenty of room on the east side. Is there a reason why you're wanting to move it over that way?
No, Mr. Allen, there's not. I think that line it's like 11 feet on that east side, I believe. There's not enough room. That's what I say. They couldn't. That was the first thing I asked them about. Can you just move it over? They can't move it over. And looking at that, get my copy of that. I believe it has to be 10 foot on either side, and there was not another way to do this. To twist that house or do anything to get it, I believe it's 11 feet 4 1/4 inches on the east side and 5 foot on the west side, according to the site that I'm looking at that you have there.
Well, I'm just saying if they moved it any further than a foot east, they'd be in violation then on the east side.
Right. I mean, there might be a foot, but it's not going to solve the problem without getting a variance on the west. And again, there's no objections, and in fact, we have letters from people that say they would like to see them do it.
Is the house to the west, is it 10 foot off the property line? So you've got 15, you will have 15 feet between the two.
Yes, sir. There would be.
Properties.
Yes, that's correct. I don't know if it's more than 10 foot, but it would be at least 10 foot, the one on the west. So there would be 15 feet between the two houses there. You're right. Yes.
Do you know the reason for that 10-foot setback? Normally, it's 5 anyway.
Normally, for this zoning, it's 5. It's a plat note on the original plat.
That's
Nichols Hills suburban tract.
That's what I brought you. I brought a copy of that original plat, and they stuck it in there, and apparently...
He's prepared.
Apparently, a lot of folks have been getting by without even, nobody paid attention to it. Then somebody paid attention to it, not for this case, but when this builder went down on this, they said, oh, the Nichols Hills suburban tract, it's 10 foot. So...
That same plat has some extreme front yard setbacks as well.
Yeah, I noticed that.
This house is way deep from the street. And the new house will be beautiful. It'll be the same spot, though. So, I mean, all it's going to do is enhance that neighborhood as opposed to...
I would be inclined to grant the variance. Are there any other questions?
If there's no protest?
There's no protest.
I'll make a motion to approve the variance.
Second.
Please cast your votes. You're approved, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming today.
Thank you.
Item number 8, case number 13590, request of Trinity School for a variance to permit the use of metal siding on 3 temporary classroom buildings located at 321 Northwest 36th Street.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm Jeff Van Hoos, 6020 Licking Drive, Edmond, Oklahoma. I'm here today as a volunteer for Trinity Schools. I've prepared just a real brief statement that I think will clarify it quickly. Trinity School is a small private school, approximately 60 students, K through 12, has a very unique capability of educating all children, whether they're dyslexic, autism, or other special needs. I have a special interest in the school. I have my daughter is going into the 11th grade at Trinity. I have the headmaster of Trinity is Jennifer Vaught. I have her with us today.
Good afternoon.
First Christian Church owns the property, and Trinity School leases from First Christian. Trinity is adding 3 portable classrooms, which will greatly improve the educational process at Trinity. Trinity has signed a 3-year lease with Mobile Modular, the portable building company. Because the property is zoned R1, metal siding on any structure, even temporary in nature, has to be approved by the Board of Adjustments. Metal siding on temporary portable buildings is very common in public school properties in Oklahoma City. And this property has had metal building siding portables before when Westminster Presbyterian Church rented the facility from First Christian. If you would please look at the aerial photo in your packet, you can easily see that Trinity School is very secluded from all directions. To the east, there is a 12 to 14 foot tall concrete wall that separates the school from I-235. That's the wall that has the buffalo on it. To the north, west, and south, there are heavy trees. If you don't know about Trinity's location and you drive by it, you will miss it. It's very secluded. We have also worked closely with the City Planning Department, Mr. Jeff Hines, Mr. Jesse Richards. In those meetings, we discovered a nice little nook that uses 2 existing walls of the permanent structure to make the temporary portables even more secluded. The city helped us work out fire codes, handicap access, and life safety. We are also adding evergreen trees to the northwest corner of the portables. We respectfully request that the Board of Adjustments grant Trinity's request for a variance to permit the use of metal siding at 321 Northwest 36th.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board?
I assume it's your intention to if the school population, continues to grow, to find a more permanent solution?
Correct.
And the picture that we're looking at now, is that metal building up on concrete block? Is that...
It is. I actually went and took 3 pictures today that I'd like to pass out, with your permission.
Is that actually on site now, or is that just a reference?
It is on site now.
Okay. Is it your intention to leave it that way?
We have, it is on blocks. However, the foundation was designed to withstand 130 mile per hour winds. We had to get a variance on that. We did that a couple months ago. So we've been through the ringer on this deal. But the facilities are very nice. This really looks great, even though it's very secluded and no one sees it but Trinity. It's very nice. Can I?
You may. Please do.
We took siding all the way down to the ground to hide the foundation, which is blocks and straps and big augers that go into the earth.
Yeah, I was going to say, in an environment where you've got children, just over an appearance issue, I wouldn't think you would want to leave it like that. You would want to go ahead and...
And we built a handicap accessible deck, all out of treated lumber.
I noticed that 3 years, that you all plan, I guess, you're requesting for 3 years so that the board, are they taking this matter up immediately to try to shorten that time?
I could support and approve for a variance for a period of 3 years.
And that would be a variance, a conditional variance for 3 years. They come back in 3 years and respond to us.
Yes.
Second.
Everyone cast their votes, please. Thanks for coming today. You're approved.
Thank you very much.
Item number 9, case number 13591, request of Crafton Tall and Associates for a variance to the sidewalk requirement located at 818 Northeast 8th Street.
Good afternoon.
Hi, my name is Chris Gray with Crafton Toll, and I'm here representing the Toby Keith Foundation for a variance request to the Kids Corral project located at Northeast 8th and Laird Avenue.
For purpose of the record, would you please give your home address?
7970 Lindsay Lane, Edmond, Oklahoma, 73025.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
You're fine. To give a better picture of what we're asking for, I'm going to pass the clerk.
Please do.
We have applied for and received a building permit to construct the OK Kids Corral project. It's a lodging facility for families who have children that are receiving pediatric and cancer treatment over at OU Health Science Center. In the process of trying to get a building permit, it was brought to our attention that that a sidewalk ramp was required by code at all intersections. At the northeast corner of our site, as I've circled in blue on your exhibit, there is a ramp that goes north across Northeast 8th Street. And as you can see by the aerial photographs I've also provided, there is no sidewalk on the other side of the road, and it's a sidewalk that goes to nowhere. Additionally, the slope of the road on Northeast 8th is fairly extreme and is not compatible with ADA design criteria for sidewalk ramps. So we're concerned about the safety of providing a ramp that goes to nowhere across a 4-lane arterial street that has no traffic controls in place and also does not meet ADA requirements. And we're requesting your consideration and approval for this variance request.
We face this issue, on other occasions, and I know the city's intention, I think, was to make sure that there were sidewalks in the city and that it was easy for people, to walk safely in the areas where they worked and lived. And, we've with justification, consider variance requests and grant variances to this, and we're going to end up with a patchwork, I think, and it always makes me wonder whether we're meeting the intent of city leaders to create a city where it is easy and safe, to walk close to your workplace and to your home. But I understand too, when you're isolated and there's nothing around you, that you begin to wonder whether it makes sense.
Are you aware of any objections to your application?
No, sir.
The other thing, to think about is, what happens in the future. They may be isolated from other businesses at this point, but we don't know, what happens around them. And you may have, if this variance request is granted, you may have an area where you have no sidewalk and yet others who come after them.
If I may, I want to offer a clarification. I'm not sure if this is clear in the staff report, but as you can see on our site plan, there are other existing sidewalks on all frontages, and we are providing a new sidewalk to meet with our grade requirements for developing the property. So we are not asking for a request to not put in sidewalks. We're simply asking to not place a ramp in a location that is not safe. I will say that just a block to the west is a signalized intersection at Phillips Avenue, and there is a location for pedestrians to cross safely Northeast 8th Street.
Your application says you're requesting relief from the sidewalk requirement, but you're saying you're putting in a sidewalk
Yes, sir. There will be sidewalks on all sides. It's just the requirement that we're being asked to put in a ramp in a location that goes to nowhere. And we're asking for relief on the ramp.
Yeah, just so I'm clear, I think what we're talking about is you're proposing another location that doesn't have the slope problem that this one does.
No, sir.
No?
We're not asking for, we're asking that this requirement to place a ramp at this location not be required. Because there's already
it
nearby
has slope
locations.
issues.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's correct.
And where there are other areas, there's another location.
It's already providing the cross-access.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Do we have that authority with the ADA?
That's what I was about to ask. What you just said to the chair was that there is other ADA access to this facility?
Just to the west at Phillips Avenue, I don't know the exact distance, but you can see on a larger view of
The application says about 500 feet.
Yes, that sounds right.
So are you saying you do intend to have ADA access, just not in the front?
There is currently a means for pedestrians to safely cross Northeast 8th Street at Phillips. Once they pass across south on Phillips, they can then go to the east along the sidewalk, along our frontage, and they can access the facility.
But will that meet ADA requirements, or do you know?
Yes, sir.
You know that for sure?
To the best of my knowledge, yes, sir.
It's existing. It's existing. It's an existing ADA crossing at Phillips.
So we're okay with that then?
My understanding is there's another location at Phillips that's in ADA compliance, and it's used every day.
It could be.
Yes.
It's not being used a whole lot, to my knowledge, but it's in place, it's active.
Okay.
And by ramp, are we talking about it's just the slope? Is that right? How I've seen them where they're building these sidewalks, before it was just the sidewalk ended, but now it's like either declining or inclining depending on how you look at it. Is that what we're talking about when we say ramp?
Yes.
Okay.
The ADA requires a certain percent gradient down the ramp as well as a cross slope in this specific location. Neither can be satisfied.
Because of the slope?
Because of the slope on Northeast 8th Street.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So if we didn't grant the variance request, you're talking about you would have to regrade that, or, the elevation of the road, it's...
To bring it in compliance, you would have to do significant improvements to Northeast 8th
But the
Street.
location of the ramp at Phillips and 8th is in conformance with ADA in terms of the distance from the building and so forth and so on.
And I presume the topography is much better in that location.
Yes, that location is essentially a high point on Northeast 8th.
I would make a motion to approve the variance request.
I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Are there any other questions or discussion? There being none, would you please cast your vote? You are approved.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks. We got there.
Item number 10, case number 13592, request of Stellar Outdoor Media for a variance to permit a billboard to be located within the front yard setback and within 50 feet of residential zone property located at 4403 South I-35 Service Road.
Good afternoon, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Dennis Fox, 522 Colcord Drive, and I'm here with Mike Fleming. This is a sign that exists, and I have some pictures if you all want to look at it. We have a permit that was issued by the city, approved 2/12/04, for the exact location that this sign sits. Prior to the permit being issued, there was a large billboard that had 6 wooden structures, and in '04 it was converted to one metal structure with a V sign put on it. The reason we're here is when we went to upgrade our sign, and on upgrading we're going to put the new technology where it's a reader board. The staff looked at it and determined that they had 2 issues. One was a setback issue, and the other one was close proximity to single family. If you've had an opportunity to be out there, the single family, we're 307 feet away from any homes. So the single family aspect, which would say you've got to be 50 feet away from single family zoning, this is right adjacent to the interstate. And it just so happens that this property is zone C4, and there's property that's just to the north and just to the east that happen to be zoned R1. Somebody has not zoned it, but the opportunity to develop it for residential, I think, is very, very unlikely. With regard to the setback, when we applied for the permit, and I've got a copy of it if you all want to see it, it was approved, and so I would leave that to the staff, but we're 27 feet from the property line on the east side and 33 feet to the north side. So we would like the opportunity to upgrade the sign. We're here to answer any questions, but we're not going to be changing anything other than you're going to see now a sign that allows for different advertisement, as you see all around the city, and so the base will stay the same, and the V portion will stay the same. It'll just be the face of the sign that will be modified.
In the staff report, I see no unfavorable considerations for this proposed variance. Are you aware of anybody that's objecting to this or protesting at this time?
I'm not aware of any.
Does this meet all bright requirements?
All bright requirements? Yes, we will. As in bright or very bright?
Make a motion to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your vote at this time. You're approved, sir. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Item number 11, case number 13593, request of Oakdale Park for a variance to the 20-foot platted front building line located at 11709, 11817, and 11821 Gwendolyn Lane, 11708, 11820, and 11824 Katy Cove, and 4108, 4200, and 4208 Northeast 116th Street.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. My name is Dwight Butler with Anchor Engineering. I represent the applicant on this item. For the record, the address of Anchor is 10804 Quail Plaza Drive in the Village.
Okay.
Basically, we had Developer A, when I originally did this plat back in '04. Developer B has since purchased the remaining lots on the property and he approached me with decreasing the building limit line. I said that's not very likely we can get that approved unless we offer the city up something in return. And he said, well, let's take 8 lots, turn them into 6, and see if we can make the 6 buildable. So what we propose to do, the 3 south lots, we're going to do away with the center one, make the other 2 large enough, and with the addition of the additional 5 feet of buildable in the front. What you don't see on the exhibit is a very large access easement that runs across the south of those lots, pinching them down drastically. So all we can do is go widthwise with them.
So that's on the far south?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That would be the lots 5, 6, and 7, which are the 4208, 4200, and 4108 in the application. Now, the 2 lots directly north of that, which are lots 8 and 11, which would be the 11709 and 11708, we're simply currently platted. There's a 20-foot building limit line all the way around instead of having a corner where you'd have a 15 and a 20. This is 20 all the way around on both sides. By dropping it to 15, they'll be able to put a house that's compatible with the rest of the houses in the neighborhood.
Is there enough room to park a car on a 15-foot setback without blocking the sidewalk?
Yes, you have 12 foot from the face of curb to the right-of-way line. The additional 15 foot, so the 15 and 12 is 27 feet, but I don't know of many cars that are 27 feet long.
But isn't that the reason for the 20-foot setback all the way around on a corner lot? Or part of the reason?
I'm not aware of that, Mr. Allen. But generally on a corner lot, you'll have a side setback of 15 and a front setback of 20 or 25, depending on what's platted around it. And oftentimes you'll see the driveway come in from the side on a corner lot.
I think what he wants to make sure of is that if there's one car in the driveway and that car is pulled up close to the garage, that car doesn't interfere with the ability of somebody to walk along the sidewalk without having to dodge that car.
I totally understand, but like I said, there is 27 feet to the building limit line.
From the curb?
From the face of curb, yes.
Okay.
And generally people will put the sidewalk about a foot or so off of the paving. Oftentimes they usually put it right over the water line for some reason. which is 4 foot back.
The application speaks to 8 lots.
Yes, sir.
Now you're talking about reducing it to 6 lots? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, this is step 1 of a very large process. We're fixing to be relocating sewer and all kinds of other utilities and such in existing easements and vacating easements. But your client, he wanted to do it 1 step at a time due to the cost.
Do you understand that, JJ? They're reducing from 8 to 6? No, that's okay.
Terry Massey's the one at staff that I've been working with on it, and she said this would be the step 1.
You're 12 and a half feet back from the curb to the property line.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then you're another 15 feet to the building in front of the structure.
Yeah, to the building limit line, yes.
Then is the sidewalks in this area at the curb line?
I honestly couldn't tell. I can't answer that, Mr. Allen. If we have an aerial of it, we could certainly look right quick.
In some cases at the Planning Commission, we've allowed the 15-foot front with an agreement that if we have a forward-facing garage, that the garage would be at 20, but the house could be at 15.
I don't see a problem. I think we can make that work.
Can you make that work on
yes,
this?
Sir.
In this 6? I would rather see that because I think you're really pushing it about blocking that sidewalk.
And we certainly don't want to block a sidewalk.
Okay.
That's not our intent.
So you would be comfortable with a 15-foot setback on the house and a 20-foot setback on the garage?
The front-facing garage.
A forward-facing garage.
Forward-facing garage.
Side entry, they'd have.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Well, even on the side entry, you would still have the problem, right? No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't.
Okay. Whichever side has the entry, where the cars are going to be parking, 20 foot. 15
If you're willing to accept that, I would make the motion that we would grant the variance with a house structure setback of 15 feet and the garage structure setback at 20 feet.
If we could modify that just slightly so that the front of the garage, that way the side of the garage could be at 15.
Correct.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're on that. I would think.
That's my motion.
And do we need to clarify that there are 5 lots?
There's only...
I think, Dwight, you're going to combine the 3 on the bottom into 2?
The 3 on the bottom will become 2, and the 3 on the top will become 2. I guess technically the variance would be for all 8 because that's the lot combinations is technically not part of this, but that's
still for the goal. It's still for the areas outlined on the site plan that he's asked for.
All right, so we have a motion pending. Have all questions been answered? I would entertain a second.
Second.
Would you please cast your vote? Sir, you're approved. Thanks for coming today.
Item number 12, case number 13594, request of Bank of Oklahoma for a variance to allow a temporary building encroaching the 100-foot platted front building line located at 6517 Northwest Expressway.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Crittenbrink, and I'm with Crittenbrink Architecture, and I'm here representing the owners, which is Bank of Oklahoma. And I believe this request is pretty straightforward. They have a building that's on Northwest Expressway, a little bit beyond MacArthur on the north side, and it's a very old prototype. In fact, they bought the building from someplace else, and what they want to do is to expand it just a bit, but to basically remodel the inside as well as create an outside architecture that is reflective of their current prototype. Our expansion actually only involves coming out and enclosing what one would call a front porch, if you will. So it's pretty modest. But the problem is that the way this works, because they have an existing business, is they will bring in a temporary building. They will move their offices out to that temporary site, use it for the time construction is going on, and then move their operation back into the building. Now, they do it all the time. They've done it at Oklahoma. The reason I'm here today is because we don't really have a place we can find to put this 24 by 66 building, I believe, without encroaching on the front yard and rear yard setbacks. Our property is bordered on Northwest Expressway on the front, and I'm spacing on the street because it's kind of a private street, but it has like a 100-foot setback in the front and a 50-foot setback in the back. And as you go from east to west, it kind of pies off. So you get into a fairly narrow spot there where we could locate a temporary structure. There is one location, which would be, so that you know, I mean, it would be north of our existing building, down low, totally without any type of visual contact with Northwest Expressway, as well as it would involve bringing, as you can imagine, construction, bringing traffic now behind the building, so you're driving through the construction site. So it's not a very viable alternative for us. So what we're asking for is a variance to locate a trailer, a mobile building. Trailer is a bad word, they told me in the industry. It's not a trailer, it's a lovely mobile building. Pre-manufactured building, I think is the term we're going with. And it'll encroach, and with the City of Oklahoma City, you can only go for 6 months. Our construction sequence will probably be a little bit less than that. Probably we're thinking somewhere between 4 and 5. And so we're asking to be allowed to set that up where it is violating the front yard setback for the time of construction, and then it will be removed.
Now, was this the site, and I apologize, I wasn't able to get out there, but is this the site that used to be the Bank of the West or something?
Could have been.
Okay.
Could have been. I'm not familiar with that.
And there's a little shopping area in that
behind
there.
Yeah,
okay.
It's kind of this pie-shaped lot that they cut out for this bank as a pad site, I'm sure. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I take it this would be some type of conditional variance that would last for 6 months during construction. Is that what we're proposing today?
Mm-hmm.
And are you aware of any protest?
Not that I received word of.
I'm okay. I'll move approval.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. You're approved, sir.
All
Thanks
right.
for coming
Thank
today.
you very much. I appreciate it.
Item number 13, case number 13595, request of Uno Mas Restaurant and Beer to amend a condition of the board's order pursuant to the approval of case number 13420 concerning the hours of operation located at 2823 South Agnew Avenue.
Good afternoon. Dusty Embry. You have to forgive me on a zip code. My wife and I have spent the last 2 days moving. We just moved to 123 Northeast 2nd Street, Level Apartments, G8. With Uno Mas Restaurant Bar, this is, I guess, my third trip in. We had a variance the first time for an ABC2 overlay. We leased a place out, or attempted to. The landlord thought that he had the proper zoning to do a restaurant bar. We found out we didn't after getting into it. Went through the board, got an ABC2 overlay. Then we got into parking. Once we got into our parking, we had to get a variance for parking. I guess the building is old. It's on right off South Agnew and Southeast 28, Southwest 28. So we had to get a parking variance, and we received the parking variance. And in doing so, Sam Gresham represented us. I was here myself, but he was represented. That was an architect. And in doing so, when we got to the business hours, in order to make sure that we weren't interrupting any other businesses at the operation of business hours, we set it for 5 o'clock opening for the restaurant bar. And turns out we were short spaces, and we also got a zoning. The parking lot to the south of us is vacant. It's with Agnew Glass. We had to go to them, and we got an agreement with them to utilize their parking lot as well as our parking lot, if that makes sense. And then we set it for opening hours after 5 o'clock. And in doing so, I guess we never really discussed the closing hours. We, just like Republic, Hooters, Deep Deuce, would like to utilize after hours on the weekends. We'd like to go Thursday, Friday, Saturday until 2 a.m. We were initially, when it was brought up, I think they said midnight. I know they said midnight. Let me rephrase that. So right now we're set with a closing hour of midnight. We'd like to go until 2 a.m. on those, and that's leave the 5 o'clock. We're not requesting any change in that. We'd just like to capitalize on some of the peak hours later in the evening.
When did the restaurant open?
It has not opened yet.
It's never opened. It's never done any business.
No, sir.
Okay. And one thing I saw in a packet was a notice form that somebody sent back in complaining about noise. Did you see that? And
no, sir.
Are you aware of? Okay.
I'm not aware of that.
We have one person here, Mark Enriquez, who wants to speak in response to this. Would you mind taking a seat for a second? We'll bring you back up after we hear from Mark. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Enriquez, 2604 Southwest 51st Street. This is Stelba Hightower. She's property owner of 2328 Southwest 28th Street.
Good afternoon. How are you, ma'am?
The property where she's located at, there's 2 alleyways, and on 2328, there's 2 alleyways, and within that property, there's there's overnight taco stands out there already. We have 3 taco stands right on Southwest 29th and Agnew. We have another taco stand at the Southwest 28th and Agnew. We have another taco stand right on at the retail. It used to be Horton Motors. The action's there. We have loud music. We have tenants there. We've had them call the police all the time. They stay up until 2 o'clock. The taco stands stay up to 2 o'clock. With this bar and grill adding to it, it's just going to make it even a lot worse. We have graffiti on the walls. We have beer bottles in the alley. I've sat there because I run her property. I've sat there in the property, and I mean, the alley is just more. I mean, after hours, that's where it's where it's going to happen at, and we just come to spend. I mean, it's just too much money for her to spend, and then with this place being open at 2, there's just an attraction at the taco stand, just to more people, and it's just a lot. It's just difficult for her and the tenants we have there at the property.
And we want to help, and we want neighbors to get along with neighbors, but I don't know if we have jurisdiction over the taco stand.
No, it's not the jurisdiction over the taco stand. It's the thing, when this bar closes, or between that time, that's where they come to eat tacos, and it creates more of a problem. Within that place right there of 2328, there's a cell tower. I mean, we have these places, and everybody comes out and goes, they come out of the bar and they go to these places to eat, which I understand. But it just creates a lot of problem, a lot of fights, a lot of beer bottles, a lot of graffiti. I mean, I've been out there late at night. I've had tenants call me, and I've been out there. I've stood out there, and alcohol, you do things and that you don't remember. I've got guys, we got people, tenants with family and kids, and they're just out there using the restroom with no care. And you say something to them, it's no care. It's no care at all. And just about every weekend, we have to clean beer bottles. We have to, once a month it's graffiti. And then just opening this bar and grill to this time at night, it just adds more fuel to the fire, because she's already having trouble with the late nights people coming out to these places.
I guess the variance has already been approved for them. It will open. What they're asking today, what they're seeking today, is to extend the hours.
Yeah.
So are you here to say we don't want the extended hours or something else?
Well, she'd rather not have,
I understand that.
Yeah. The hours is their hours, which is fine, but the community there, it's solid, it's quiet, but at certain times when Thursday, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, when these places stay open until 2 o'clock, you have a lot of people come in to eat, a lot of drunk people to eat, and they just don't think.
And just so I'm clear, so I understand, does Ms. Hightower live on the property that you're talking about, or is she the landlord?
She is the landlord.
And you are the tenant?
No, I'm not a tenant.
Okay. What is the property used for?
It has 4 apartment buildings in there. One up front is a house, one on the side is it's a little apartment, and then we have a 2-story apartment building, 3 and 4.
Okay, so there's 4 apartments on the property that's owned by Ms. Hightower.
Yes, sir.
And Ms. Hightower is here today to protest the request for extended hours. Am I saying that correctly?
Actually, she wanted to protest the whole thing, but she was in the hospital. She had surgery, and we couldn't attend y'all's meeting.
I understand.
And now, that we got this letter, that's why we're here.
And we appreciate you coming here today, and we're interested in your issues. Are there any questions from any of the board members?
How far? Well, I guess looking at this map, can you tell me where you all are, where Ms. Hightower's property is in relation?
She's on the east side of 28th Street, right behind Osborne's, besides the auto repair, just a half a block away from that area.
That R2 area.
Yeah.
And as far as, have you had any complaints from the tenants that actually?
We always have complaints just about every weekend, and just about once a month it gets worse. I mean, it's just, I mean, it's just a lot of, I mean, people from the bars come, and I understand they go out to eat and stuff, but you know, there's some people that just don't know how to handle themselves, distracted, have no respect for people, especially after 2 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock in the morning. But right now, as it is, on the retail center right there, right behind us, we have a taco stand there, and that is just full of people, starting from Thursdays. And then on the side of it, at the auto repair, when he's not there when the doors are closed, we have another taco stand. And that is just so full of cars. And right next to the auto repair is a tower. And you can see fights from there, the tenants, you know, and it just starts from there and it receives all the way to our property.
So your concern is that these extended hours would only exacerbate an issue that exists right now?
A lot worse.
Is there anything else you'd like to add to the record at this time, please, sir?
Well, it's very costly, and besides that, it just disturbs our tenants. And, you know, the police is there, and by the time, you know, everything disappears when the police is there. And the police never catches nothing. I mean, it's not that they don't catch it, they're gone by the time they're there and stuff, so.
What is to prevent it? Let's say if we deny this application, what is to prevent those same people who leave at midnight from sticking around till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, whether the bar is open or, especially if you say there are other vendors that are there that are contributing to this issue as well?
Well, I mean, right now it's not a major, it's a problem. It's not a major problem. I mean, we're getting from, she can't go out there and clean up all this beer bottle. She can't go out there and paint all the graffiti. She can't go out there and tell these drunk guys, hey, you know, you can't pee right there. Or you got kids playing, especially when some of the kids stay out late. I mean, this starts from 9 o'clock to whatever, and it progresses to get a lot worse. And I'm not trying to discourage him or anything, but I mean, after hours, when they leave that building, he does not know where they go to, but I mean, these taco places is just an attraction for these people to come to eat, and you know, it just creates a lot of problem, a lot of fights, a lot of destruction around that area, and she happens to be in between 2 alleyways.
Are the taco stands there all night, 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning?
The latest I've seen them there is about 3 o'clock in the morning.
All right. Any other questions from the board at this time? Would you mind if we hear from the applicant again, and if you would like to add anything else to the record, you're feel free to do it at this time.
It's just a concern of, you know, safety of the residents there. And, I mean, our tenants are not the only one with kids. There's other kids around that area. And it's not a good thing for a kid to see an adult under the influence, you know, doing silly things like this or just using the restroom in front of people. And, you know, the parents have to say something, and they, you know, they start arguing or start fighting, just alcohol takes over.
I appreciate your concerns, Mr. Enriquez. Mrs. Hightower, thank you for being here today.
I appreciate it. Thank you for hearing us.
Yes, please.
While he's coming back to the microphone, I have a question for staff. It says in our summary that the variance is to be reviewed in 1 year, and the variance was granted on June 16th of 2011. Is there an obligation on the part of the applicant to abide by that requirement, or?
The 1 year would be, it was a variance to review the application after they've had a year of operation.
So since they have not had a year of operation?
Not being open, there's really nothing for you to review. So once they're open for a year, that's when they need to come back.
Okay. And I would just, to the applicant too, he's made reference to Hooters and, other establishments. And, one thing that I think is different about your establishment from those is, there is some separation between that establishment and residential living, and your establishment backs right up to a neighborhood. And my inclination is, not to, keep you from proceeding on, your business, but to not allow extended hours. And then when you are in operation and you come back and we revisit the parking issue, and that'll give the neighborhood time to acclimate. The street vendors that are around, you're operating a restaurant and a bar. I'm sure, it'll be in your best interest as operators to clean up that area and to supervise the area. Plus, you've got a church, in the next block north of you. And so, if you are good stewards of that area and, contribute rather than, or just, an additional headache for the people who have property in that area, I think, we would view that more favorably and be inclined with the consent of the neighborhood to allow, you to extend your hours somewhat. But the one thing that they're going to want to see is that you have control over your customers.
Yes, sir.
And
if I
good
may,
security around the building and in your parking areas.
Yes, sure, absolutely. Yes, sir. And if I may, Deep Deuce is in the Deep Deuce district downtown. I ate there this afternoon. It's packed within residents all around it. So not all of them are back. And I get your point. I understand that, and I'm not trying to.
But those people have made a choice to live in an urban district where they know that those venues are close to where they live.
Okay. And then the other thing, we do respect the community, sir, and we are doing our best to clean. If any of you had gone in a year ago, 2 years ago, you would see the difference we've made. We've put a lot of money in it. A year's time, that's a lot of capital that we could miss out on in that period of time from midnight to 2 a.m. on those high-powered nights. I mean, that is a lot of capital we're talking about. We do have a lot of money invested in this property that we've gone through. Once again, I said ABC2 overlay. We did the variance to parking. As far as the community and the activities, as the sir and ma'am have brought up, we understand those. So we don't like them either. We don't like the graffiti. We've constantly had to paint. We'll clean our walls at least once a month from the graffiti. We're relighting outside, getting it back going so that maybe we can cut down on some of that. On top of that, yes, there are taco stands out there. There are people that are going to be out there at those late hours. We're a restaurant bar. We want nothing more than everybody to come into our establishment where we do have eyes on them, where we are taking care of our business. We are watching our parking lot. We do have restrooms where they're not urinating or going to the bathroom outside, excuse me. We will be servicing the community in that we're going to give them a place to go. All we're asking is that we get the 2 hours that aren't in obstruction of the parking variance that we had as far as the number of lots the lot size that we have with parking, as we are not opening until after 5 to give the other businesses so we don't impede on their parking during our operating hours. Just looking to capitalize on some of the later hours, which once again I said it is a lot of capital, and I understand your point, but a year's time is a long time to miss out on a substantial amount of money that could go back to replacing the amount of money that we put into the investment of the building.
Let me ask you this. What is your occupancy limit, and how many people will you be employing at the facility, and will there be live music?
There will be, on occasion, on the weekends, we will have live music. As far as the number of employees, I'm not certain. Some of that depends also on how well we do. I guess it'll be a trial and error. The occupancy, I wish I had the number in front of me. I think it is, I hate to even guess, because we had to go through, the building is large. It's a very big building. It used to be the Harley-Davidson building, if anyone's familiar with it. We had to go in rezoning to get the ABC2 overlay. There's a lot of it that has been knocked off as storage for the upstairs. There's only one portion of which is the old restaurant that used to be in there, which was the Hog House, yes. And that place, that part will be occupied, and the lower stairs occupied, with an exception to the garage area, which also has been placed storage. So as far as our occupancy, I'm sorry, I don't have the number in front of me.
Do you have a range?
A range? Right. I would say it's somewhere between 400 and 500, I think, something like that. So as far as the building, what we have available. If we can get that, I'm
It
not
was
sure.
originally a movie theater, correct?
I believe so, yes, sir. Yes, I think it's been several things. It was a movie theater, and then it was the Long Branch, and then it was the Hog House, I think. And I think there was another tenant in between that, in our findings, when we were getting through this, I've heard that weren't necessarily up to standards, so they may not be in the books.
Not that I ever went to the movie theater.
Or the Hog House.
We've set parameters on the prior application. You haven't opened yet. We have not seen what you can do, where you can be a good neighbor or not, pick up the beer cans, keep the noise down, and I would not be willing to change the hours until we see a year of operation. Then you might be able to come back to us, and if you have been a good neighbor, then we may be able to, this is my opinion, okay? I might be able to vote for it, but at this point, I don't think we need to change that until we see a year of operation. And my motion would be to deny the application at this time.
Would you, and just talking out loud, would you entertain a compromise and say instead of a year, 6 months?
No. I think we need to see a year.
And I would agree. I tend to agree with my colleague because I think that, you know, you all have been here before, and there were certain expectations, and I know that there have been a few bumps along the way. And I know that you're concerned about capital. I'm a firm believer in, you know, economic development, and I applaud you and thank you for, you know, providing service and helping the economy. But I think that, you know, you could, the flip side, one could argue that you could very well be, you know, expending considerable resources if it does not work, if the 2 o'clock between midnight and 2 a.m. extended hours do not pan out. So I'm inclined to go with my colleague, and I will second your motion.
For discussion. There being no further discussion, I see your vote. The motion to increase the hours is denied. You still have a variance that emanates from the June 16, 2011 board meeting that requires you to report back in a year from first date of business.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 14, case number 13584, appeal of Jan Shelton of the decision of Historic Preservation Commission regarding the denial of a certificate of appropriateness for the replacement of vinyl fascia and replacement of windows located at 2101 Northwest 27th Street.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hi. Name's Jan Shelton. Address is 2101 Northwest 27th. I'm the homeowner of the property.
Could we ask him to pull the microphone a little closer to him?
Yes, that's a good point.
Is that better?
That's much better.
Okay.
Did you state your home address for the record?
Yes, I did.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Address is 2101 Northwest 27th.
That's why we need to get that microphone closer.
And I'm the homeowner of the property.
Thank you. Thank you.
Got it?
Please, this is an appeal that we are reviewing in a de novo manner, and would you please, at this time, present your appeal?
All right. Middle of December last year, I hired a contractor to replace the windows in my house. We came around, we did all the estimates, did a walk around the house. Every time I told him this is in a HP district, and so everything that is done here has to go along with what they're after. He said it wouldn't be a problem. He had done this before. I said, okay. Well, between Christmas and New Year's, he called me back, and he said, we don't need permits to do the windows in the house, so I'm ready to go. So I said, all right. So we started putting the windows in, and I got a notice from the HP people saying they didn't like the windows. They wanted the original windows back in it. The original windows were destroyed, taken away. A lot of the windows in the house were only being held in by the paint around the windows. During the wintertime, I could sit in the house and watch my curtains blow around and stuff. My next-door neighbors got energy-efficient windows in their house. I thought this would not be a problem at all. I've been to 3 meetings with the HP board. Their suggestions have always been to take the windows out and replace them with windows they approve. My contractor told me that he had gone back several times and talked to the people at the HP and said, well, what about these windows? What about these windows? Didn't ever work out. And what he told me before he threw his hands up and walked away from the deal was that any windows that we put in that they would approve are going to end up being about 50% of the value of your house. The windows are there.
For the record, what is the name of your contractor, and is he still in business?
Yeah, he's still in business. His name is Joey Swearingen.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's all right. Anyway, I've not been able to get any kind of a resolution on this. After my last meeting with the HP board, I talked to Catherine Montgomery about it, and she said what her solution was that they would fine me, I would pay the fine, and then I would probably never hear from them again. And I said, well, that sounds real good, except for probably. I just don't want this to come back on me in 6 months, 6 years, when I get ready to sell a house, that sort of thing. I sent you guys notes from several of my neighbors saying that nobody's got a problem with the windows. I just don't see it. We had a bunch of pictures taken of the house before the project and after the project. And tell you the truth, if the pictures weren't date-coded, you'd never know the difference. One of the things that I insisted on with the contractors is that the windows look like the original windows, and the new windows are all 6-on-6 windows, and I just don't see the problem. Driving down the street, you can't tell the difference.
Can I interrupt here? I watched the HP hearing, and I want to correct you too. We are not you guys, and the application of the guidelines and standards, is not related to what we like and don't like. That's our job, is to apply the standards and the guidelines.
Right. Well, and I understand that.
Let me finish. When I watched your hearing, I didn't see anything in that hearing from you that indicated that you disagreed that the fascia and the windows were not in conformance. What I did see you was struggling for a resolution on, how to get from where you are to where you need to be. And it sounds to me like, you had communication with your contractor and you felt like you informed him of the things he needed to know. He reassured you that everything was okay and things were not okay.
Right.
So, to me, there's no ambiguity about whether, the windows and the fascia meet the guidelines. And in my opinion, they do not. And I don't see anything in the HP hearing that indicates, that there was anything left. As a matter of fact, I'm reading, the applicant was given additional time to pursue alternatives to the windows currently installed to document the condition of the historic windows and to propose alternate fascia material. And this report indicates that no further progress was made. So I guess, there was no response from you on that. And regarding the condition, and I understand, those wood windows need maintenance. But it says the guidelines and standards require that historic architectural features and materials be retained, preserved, and maintained in good repair. Repairs must be made with like materials. So your obligation in a historic district is to properly maintain that house. So if those windows had deteriorated to the point where, your drapes were moving inside your house, then either you or previous homeowners had not, met the intent of this guideline and standard and to properly maintain that house.
Right. Okay. First of all, if I had even known that the HP district existed, we'd never done the project. I was depending on my contractor. I could put the windows in.
You said you informed him that it was a historic district, so you didn't.
Right. I did tell him, and every time we walked around the house, we talked about it, and he was like, well, we can put single pane windows in, and stuff like that. And I said, no, they need to look like the windows that came out. It needs to be what the HP people want. So after I first got the letter from the HP people saying that the windows weren't in compliance and stuff, then the contractor started trying to backtrack. He goes, I didn't know that was an HP district. And I said, well, besides me telling you about that every time we spoke, perhaps you didn't notice the 7-foot-tall sign in my front yard that says Shepherd Hills District. So what I'm saying is that when it's all said and done, I understand that the HP people don't like the windows for whatever reason, but the bottom line is I can't afford to fix it. I can't change them. I don't have the money to change them. At this point, I'm unemployed. I can't do anything about it. The windows are there. I don't know what I can do, and to replace them with original type wood windows would be an astronomical amount of money for the house that I live in. I understand it's the HP district, that sort of thing, but, the reality of it is it's just an old house. Abraham Lincoln never slept there. It's just an old house. It's got one electrical plug in every room, whether it needs it or not. And I can't afford to fix it the way they would like for it to be fixed. Had I known that this was going to be such a problem, I would have never done it. But I didn't know. That's why I hired the contractor.
Right, and I sympathize with you, Mr. Shelton. I understand your concerns, but I think that, I think what's getting me is, you understood when in moving or in purchasing the property that there were certain covenants that you had to abide by.
Right.
And while I understand that you did not actually have the communication with HP prior to that, you were under the impression that your contractor, who in this instance is your agent, you were under the impression that he had those conversations, then it's kind of difficult for me then to say, well, the HP got it wrong when it was your agent,
right.
and it was your responsibility.
Right.
And so it's difficult, and I've reviewed your presentation, I've reviewed the information that's been presented, and I can't find anything to justify overturning or even modifying the decision of the HPC, although I do understand your concerns about finances, but I think that there are other avenues for you should this matter, should we decide to uphold their recommendation. So it's an unfortunate circumstance, but it's an unfortunate circumstance of your own making to some degree. So.
Well, let me say this, we all feel very sorry for the circumstances you find yourself in, but we also have to appreciate that the Historical Preservation Commission, they have a really tough job, and they do a great job, and they're not out there trying to pick on you, they're just trying to enforce rules, and if we don't follow the rules, no one's going to comply, and so we're sympathetic to where you're at. We can't give you legal advice. We can't tell you what to do. But you have other remedies available to you. You can consult a lawyer, and you're not at the end of the road. You can continue to talk to the HPC. But the rules are the rules, sir.
Mr. Chair, do we have other people that wish to speak regarding this case?
Is there anyone wishing to speak in response to the appeal? Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
I would make a motion then to uphold HP's denial of the CA on this matter.
Second.
Before we vote on that,
yes, sir.
And maybe this question is to you. What alternative is there for him if we turn this down and uphold?
I was about to say that, but I was going to wait for you.
Yeah, if we affirm the ruling of the HPC, what are his options?
You can, Mr. Shelton, appeal to the district court the finding of the Board of Adjustment, and they're about to list some findings. They're about to say why it is that they support what the Historic Preservation Commission did. So you would get with staff, either JJ or Kathy, if you chose to appeal. They can't help you do it, but you would give them your information. And you can contact me if you'd like. I can kind of point you in the right direction. But you will need a lawyer to do it, most likely. But your recourse from here is in Oklahoma County District Court.
And he could also try to work with the commission as well to try to resolve this without having to avail himself to that process.
Well, he could do that. I think that he has probably talked to them quite a bit already. So his next step may be to district court.
But he's just stated that he doesn't have a job. He doesn't have the money to replace the windows. And with that, I would think that, do you have the money to hire an attorney?
No, not even close.
Where are we with the thing if we do uphold?
What happens is you have determined that the Historic Preservation Commission made the right decision. What may happen next, and not necessarily, but what may happen next is he may get a notice of violation, and then he would end up in municipal court. If he ended up there, then it would be up to the municipal court judges to decide if he paid one citation or several. So he could choose not to appeal. He does have a very short window for filing an appeal from here. It's just a few days. But if he chose not to appeal, he could very well get a notice of violation and end up there with no further recourse because he let the time pass and did not appeal.
So he can be fined?
He could be fined.
Okay.
It's not automatic. It would be up to the municipal court judge whether or not a citation presented was actually resulted in a conviction. But that could be one of the possibilities that's next.
Thank you. Just for purposes of the record, and I want to make sure we're clear on this point, the motion that has been proposed is to adopt the findings of the HPC in its entirety with no modification, based upon the record presented to the HPC, correct?
That's as I understand it. So
Right.
those
Is that the motion?
Those would be the findings that would go forward, exactly what the Historic Preservation Commission found.
And there's no modification or change made today by the Board of Adjustment?
That's correct. That is correct. That's my understanding.
All right. And there's a motion? Yes, sir. Take your time.
What kind of windows are those? Are they vinyl windows or are they vinyl clad windows?
Vinyl clad.
So they're a wood window with vinyl, a real minute vinyl over the top of that wood window.
That's my understanding for it. We also redid the fascia around the roof in the same material. And at one point when I talked to the HP, they asked me would I be willing to change the fascia back to wood. And I said, sure, if that'll make all this go away. And they said, well, it won't. And I go, well, then why bother? You know, because I mean, to change the fascia but leave the window frames, be a different material, I think that'd look worse than it started out. So I just don't know what I could do to comply with the HP board, because anything that they suggest is just outrageously expensive. There's no way I can afford to replace the windows is what they're asking. And at this point with my contractor, he's ready to sue me now over this. And that's the only communication I've had with him, so I certainly am not going to get any help with this from my contractor.
We all feel very sorry for your predicament.
Yeah.
We do.
But here I am, you know.
Are there any more questions from any of the board members? There is a motion and there is a second. Would you please register your vote?
Do we vote yes to?
We're voting by turning on your green bulb.
By affirming.
Yes, you're voting to uphold the HPC's determination in its entirety.
And the denial of the CA.
Yes.
Okay.
So what you're doing is affirming what the Historic Preservation Commission did.
We thank you for coming today. We did affirm what the HPC decided, and we really do feel sorry for where you find yourself.
You know, everybody feels sorry for me, but that's not helping.
I understand.
You know, I mean, this is a problem that I cannot fix, and that's, I mean, to me, that's the bottom line. This is not something I can fix. If I could have fixed this, I would have done so. I would have not started the project, but I can't fix it. So it's cost me money to come here, which I didn't have. It's going to cost, I don't know what, as far as fines and that sort of thing. It's going to cost who knows what to do an appeal again and stuff. So the only outcome I see to this is eventually getting forced out of the house that I own because somebody doesn't like the windows.
I would encourage you to keep talking to the Historical Preservation.
Okay.
Thank you for coming today. Is there any other business to come before the board today?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
We are adjourned.